Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Herman, Vice President of Finance and Sponsorship for the Michigan Sport Business Conference. It is my great honor to introduce our title conversation, Digital and Online Sport Marketing, featuring speakers Stephen Ross, Bob Bowman, and Mike Tirico. In today's society, technology is at the forefront of our everyday communications, revenue maximization, profit, and branding prominence. Therefore, it is vitally important that sport franchises and leagues effectively utilize the tools available in the digital and online marketing world to create and sustain meaningful connections with their fans. Despite the many benefits of digital and online marketing, there are also inevitable drawbacks. With the availability of more viewing platforms, the increased use of social media and fantasy sports, fans may prefer watching the game at their home as opposed to the stadium. How can technology be used to reinvigorate the stadium experience? These are just some of the issues facing the sports world today as a result of the new technological age. In further exploring our title conversation, today's speakers are giants not only in the business and sport worlds, but are also at the cutting edge of implementing digital and online marketing to enhance their respective sport ventures and fan experiences. Particularly exciting for all of us, Mr. Ross and Bowman have pursued their careers consistent with the fundamentals we are currently learning in the business and sport management programs. Such success requires incredible vision, strong leadership, and focused execution. Besides being role models for sport industry success, we can emulate Mr. Ross and Bowman for their expansive wealth and wisdom they have given to many charitable causes. Finally, Mr. Ross's incredible generosity to our university has ensured that Michigan will be at the forefront of business education for years to come. Stephen Ross became the owner of the Miami Dolphins and Sun Life Stadium in 2008. Since that time, he has become one of the pioneers of the NFL ownership group in trying to enhance the in-game experience for fans around the country. Mr. Ross purchased FanVision Entertainment, which supplies portable viewing devices that fans use at their seats to simultaneously watch other live games. Mr. Ross also founded RSE Ventures, which specializes in audience engagement and in-venue content. He's the chairman and founder of Related Companies, which has developed over $22 billion in real estate assets around the country. Bob Bowman is the president and chief executive officer of Major League Baseball Advanced Media. MLB.AM is the interactive media and internet company of Major League Baseball. It operates MLB.com as well as all 30 individual team sites. In addition, MLB.AM is responsible for At Bat, currently one of the highest grossing iOS apps available, as well as the capture and distribution of over 18,000 live video events in 2012 alone. Under Mr. Bowman, MLB.AM has grown into an award-winning multimedia business at the forefront of the digital revolution, valued at over $2.5 billion, which has allowed Major League Baseball to become a leader in technological advancement. Moderating this conversation today is one of the most recognizable faces in all of sports media, ESPN's Mike Tirico. Since 1991, Mr. Tirico has handled a variety of assignments for ESPN, ranging from radio broadcasts to his current role as ESPN's Monday Night Football play-by-play commentator. He was named the 2010 Sportscaster of the Year and has been nominated for various sports Emmys. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Stephen Ross, Bob Bowman, and Mike Tirico.
Well done, pal. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Can everybody hear us okay? How about all the people up in my seats up there? Cheap seats. How we doing up there? Awesome. I'd like to come hang with you guys, to be honest, and listen to these gentlemen talk. You know, we learned a lot this week, and if we learned anything this week, it's know who your constituents are. So, before we get started, can I just have a show of hands how many Michigan students, undergrad or grad, we have in the auditorium here this afternoon? Good. Can I ask y'all to stand up for a second? I'm sorry, it's interactive. It's interactive. You can't. Steve. Michigan alums. Can I ask any Michigan alums in the room to stand up? Oh, no, you have to stay too. You have to stay too. Because while you're all doing that, and then everybody else who I've left out, I'd like you all to give a hand to Mr. Ross for this unbelievable school. I will tell you that There's nothing like being able to give back to your university. And the development department, my neighbor Jerry May is not here, so I can say this on his behalf. There's nothing like giving back to your school when you can. And if you can do it at Mr. Ross's level, God bless you. Honestly. This place is awesome. It's a testament to the Michigan way, a Michigan man, and when you have a love of a place, you give back at every possible turn. So congratulations for that. It's great to be here at this awesome building. And to the students who are involved in this thing, number one, way to go. Way to get it done. You guys all deserve a round of applause. All right, the bad news is we're on the record here today. It's just the way of the media. There's no such thing as off the record anymore for the most part. So the good news is we have two gentlemen whose reservoir of expertise are extraordinary, and we can dip into them. And before we go into some of the topics, I guess, that would fit under the headline for this panel and this keynote, I'm just curious, and Steve, I'll start with you, just to see the blend and the mix of sports and business at the professional level, at the collegiate level here at Michigan, at every turn that we see, how in your just recent time, how extraordinary the explosion has been of the two worlds intersecting.
Well, sports has even become more important today because it's with technology today, it's the only thing that's really timely that everybody in the world is really looking at, and being the kind of the least common denominator amongst all of us, in this country, in this world, in essence. And it's the one thing that everybody is checking their smartphones for, checking the scores, where it is, and as opposed to that in the news. But it seems that sports is obviously a lot more popular in looking at that. It's on everybody's mind, and I think today the opportunities are great. It's changing, certainly, and it's a very exciting field to be in, trying to mix the two. And someone who is really not in the sports world and having been a recent participant, it's not as easy as one might think, I'm going to tell you. But it's certainly a fun area to be in, exciting, and offers a lot of opportunity.
And we'll talk about some of those challenges and maybe give you some insight, because for the students in the room, there are so many more job opportunities in the business side and the sports world than there were even 20 some odd years ago when old people like me were in college. So it's really grown and expanded. And I look at Bob, and I always smile when I look at Bob, because my job is wonderful. It takes me to some great places. It takes me to the British Open, to Wimbledon every summer. And for the last few years, I'm able to sit at 1 a.m. and watch my Tigers play on my iPad somewhere in the middle of Scotland, which is unthought of, impossible to imagine 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And Bob has become really the guiding force behind MLB AM, which honestly, of all the major sports, really has taken an unbelievable leadership role. There's a lot of criticism for baseball about what they don't get right. This is a thing that they've hit a home run on. And if you could just talk about how, just in numbers, the ability of people watching wherever they go has grown over the last few years. Is Bob's mic on? Why don't you just see this for a second? I'm not a technician, but I play one on TV. It seems to be going in and out. But. Very good. You know what? Here. Why don't you?
I'm good. I think I'm good.
Oh, is he good? Can you hear him, folks? No. Why don't you take mine? I'm the big mouth. I can talk. They can hear me. There you go.
Just careful.
Just slow down. There you go. That one on?
Yeah.
And you're on. Go.
Hello? Oh, there you go. It's not going to be much better. Anyway, what was the question?
The question was, just in numbers, general numbers, how MLB AM and more for the at-bat, which is the app that so many people use to watch games wherever they are, iPhone, iPad, computer. How has that grown? Give us an idea of some numbers over the last few years.
Sure. I mean, everyone in this room is, when you all were freshmen in high school, the iPhone had barely existed. And now we think of it today. And you look at Apple, for those who try to marry some element of business here at the Ross School of Business, and we all commend Steve for what he's done and others like him. because it is business is a great pursuit. It is a great amalgamation of what makes this country great in so many ways. That said, have I broken this? No, I haven't broken it. I mean, when you think about Apple, 70% of the profits come from products that didn't exist 5 years ago. That's a good company. These products didn't exist 5 years ago. Smartphones are relatively new. The tablet's obviously very new, and the mini iPad is obviously brand new. But we've launched a product with every Apple device. They've sight unseen with the iPad, sight unseen with the iPhone. We started with a wireless group at BAM, as we call ourselves. We went and hired 5 developers 6 years ago. We thought the world was going mobile. I'm very lucky. I have 2 teenagers in my house, one who is now a freshman at this great university, and one who's a sophomore still in high school. And you can just watch how they consume media to know where the world's going. So we thought it was going wireless. We hired 5 people. Apple called. We said we want to be on the first iPhone. We borrowed the first iPad, the first mini iPad. And now At Bat, which is the live game app that we have for baseball, which we sell for $14.99, and I recommend everyone purchase it. The holidays are coming up. You must have parents and brothers and sisters who love baseball. It's a great way. I mean, not a lot of us get to Scotland, but if you do, it's a great way to follow baseball. It is. But this year we were the #1 grossing app of all time at Apple with At Bat. We've been at it for 5 years, and this year the At Bat app was downloaded 6.5 million times by fans, principally here in the U.S., but some overseas as well. And even more important, it was opened by half the people every day. So when you have a product that people use every day, that's kind of a nice thing to have, but this is not air, this is not a roof. This is baseball, which I think is pretty important. But half the people, 3 million people are using it every day. You're pretty fortunate. We've got pretty good content. And luckily for baseball, we have great content we play every day. So we have to build our apps and our digital strategy very different than other leagues. We play every day. We have 15 live events, 15 movies every day with a Hollywood ending sometimes. And we have to plan for that. It has to be ready and reliable and there for 12 hours every day, 7 days a week for the entire summer. So our approach is a little different than other leagues.
It just gives you an idea do we have an idea where digital and online sports and marketing of that is going? We have a good guess, but we can't see what the turns are. And the great news is many of you are going to be part of how the ship turns over the next 5 or 10 years. Going to a game. I'm sure many of you have been to games, perhaps when you were younger with your parents, and those are the seeds from which so many great sports memories and fans grow, and this awesome business that we talked about is not a time-shifting business sprouts. But there are issues, and I know, Steve, you're trying to tackle this, deal with it, and make it better. I could sit home on a Sunday and watch the NFL and probably have as good an experience as if I was in the stadium. I could if this game gets bad, I can go to the next game. I can go to the next game. You may be familiar with the Red Zone channel and all the other options that are there. So the problem becomes, how do we keep the home field advantage for the Dolphins against Tennessee this Sunday? How do we get fans in there to root for your great young rookie quarterback, Tannehill, and your defense, which is growing, and support your team that's on the move here, and not want to stay at home and click around? So how do we attack that?
Well, the easiest way would be if we were at 8-0, I was playing the game.
That's true.
But having said that, knowing that we're not, I think the biggest challenge an owner of any sports team in any league is really knowing that the fan experience at home, watching it on TV, is probably a better experience today than it is going there live. I mean, you miss the excitement. There's nothing, once you go to a game, and we all go to the Michigan games, you can't duplicate that anywhere. I mean, that excitement and what it brings out. Right. And I think, this is something with the NFL, especially the being able to have the replays, the production that you do on television and watching other games, all the things that you have said, is a good reason not to go to a game, and it's very, very expensive. So I think as an owner, I looked at it, how do I enhance that fan experience to bring them to the stadium, why they'd want to be there, and give them everything they had at home, and give them even a better production by being there live in person. And that was the whole reason why I looked into finding the technology, why it didn't exist, and ended up buying a company, probably the worst mistake I ever did in my life. But I got getting involved in trying to do it, because if you're not involved in technology and you don't know anything about it, you really shouldn't, just because you have the money, you shouldn't be entering that field. But having said that, I did. It's challenging. I think that you're going to see a lot of change going on today. This year at Dolphin Stadium, we're looking to create or be the most technologically advanced stadium in the country. We're being wired right now with over 1,500 connections for Wi-Fi, so that you'll be able to, all the fans being able to tune in on their cell phones, their smartphones, to see the replays, to see other games. And we hope to have that operable by the end of the year. Wow. But there's so many different areas of what you have to look at as an owner in enhancing that fan experience to compete with television.
It's amazing. How many people, raise their hand please, are in fantasy football leagues? It's incredible. It's a huge number.
You promise not to tell.
The roots started in baseball as rotisserie leagues, for those of us
Same year ESPN started.
Old enough to remember. That's exactly right. But the point is, with some of this technology, you can still follow your fantasy team as you're at a Dolphins game. And those are some of the positives and some of the things that you can use to blend the digital world, the sports world, and still get the fan experience and the challenge for the businesses. What is it on the baseball end, as you are so involved in digital?
Yeah, we're trying to wire our stadiums, and we work with Steve, and he gave us a lot of good advice, and we've embarked upon wiring our stadiums for all the reasons that Steve said. But we live in a two-screen world, and the question is not what's the second screen. The second screen is what's in everybody's hand that they're using right now, texting and emailing, saying this is really boring, and I'm like, oh my God, I had to come. But so everyone has the second screen. That's what Steve's talking about. That we need to get that second screen to be as valuable no matter where you are, whether you're at home or whether you're in the stadium. And the first screen is the only thing in jeopardy, right? If you're at home, it's watching you call a great game on Monday night, or if you even better, going to the big house or going to another stadium, going to the great new City Field, or going there to see a baseball game. That's what we're trying to do. That first screen is always going to be great, and it's going to be better than anything else we have. But the second screen, if you have to go somewhere and give up the second screen, which is what Steve's talking about, that's when you're going to start running into problems. That second screen has to be valuable. But it has to be valuable even in the living room, too, because people are going to use two screens in the living room. And it's got to be different. And the toughest thing that Steve touched on in terms of getting highlights right away, because NFL, baseball, our partners at Fox and Turner and ESPN do such a good job in getting our highlights out so ready so people can see the bang, bang play. We have to do that in the stadium. We have to make it available so they get the same experience. That second screen has to be just as fast and just as good. And so while Steve may humor himself about the investment, he's right. He's dead right. What we have to do in live sports. It's coming. These kids here, my children, they're going to want the second screen to be just as valuable at a live event as it is at home.
Did anybody watch it with an iPad or a second screen in hand? I did. John King and Chuck Todd on NBC, CNN and NBC respectively, did a terrific job in the coverage using the touchscreen maps. So I'm messing around online, and I found that you could do that on your own. So I was going to specific counties. I went to the county where I was born just to see how slow our election counting was, just to see what the vote was. And that second screen experience was so real for me. And I sat there, and my son is 12 and my daughter's 10. And they're sitting on the couch with me, and we're like making counties big. Like, my daughter who's 10 said, "Dad, why does it take 4 days to count votes in Miami?" And I said, "Well, it's something I can't answer, but that's another story."
They're waiting in line for the Dolphin ticket.
That's right. That's right. There is no truth that Steve sent sales representatives to the lines in Dade County to sell Dolphins tickets as they were waiting outside. But the point is very real, and I didn't even understand that I was a true second screen consumer until I was sitting there doing that, and I caught myself because we had this conversation about this panel, and this is where it's going. So the blending of the two, take it to a marketing aspect for the folks who run the Dolphins and do the marketing of your team, because you had a little bit of a challenge this year, coming off a poor season. How much of their efforts were pointed towards the digital space and trying to use that as opposed to the traditional marketing, which was buy an ad on TV and maybe buy a billboard off of I-95 down there?
Well, I mean, certainly that's part of the marketing of tickets, and and through the digital media, through the internet, and what have you. I mean, that's a key factor of where people are really transacting their businesses. But I think in terms of what we're selling from that standpoint in the stadiums, you still aren't able to have that connectivity at this point in time yet to really take advantage of that inside the stadiums. Okay. And so we haven't yet been able to use that as an advantage in really attacking, the fans, or so to get them to come to the stadiums. And and if I look at Miami, I think basically because of the economy or what have you, they're still staying at home, or too many people. We're not selling it. But certainly in the future, I think you're going to be having, with the smartphones and the connectivity at the stadium, and the ability with social media and doing everything you could otherwise do at home, that's going to be a major marketing effort that we have. And so we haven't been able to take advantage of that. We think this year we'll be able to demonstrate it, and then using our salespeople and with digital and everything, attacking that and really bringing fans to the stadiums, and that also will be helpful if we're winning at the same time.
You're on your way. Tennessee this week continuing to stay right on the edge of the playoff race in the AFC. Bob, what do you see from a Major League Baseball standpoint that are the next marketing frontiers or digital frontiers that can continue to keep a game whose demographic is getting older to try to get it younger, to get more people like who are in this auditorium involved emotionally in baseball again?
I think it's an interesting question, and certainly I don't have the answer. I have some thoughts, but I think that's why, Commissioner Seelig, even though in theory he's just in charge of a sports league, he was, 12 years ago he set this company up. And aside from whatever else it is, it talks to a younger audience. It is relevant to a younger audience. And our feeling is that if you're not on the device, it's hard to get people to put their device down and go somewhere else. So we have to build for BlackBerry, because there's still people who carry a BlackBerry, and for every Android phone and for all the iOS devices, as well as for the connected devices everywhere. We've got to be everywhere because that's where our audience is. And we want to make it, when our audience is ready for baseball, we want them to be able to, in front of whatever device they're in, we can get our baseball game. And so, it's for us, our goal is to make sure that the audience, which is a little younger on these devices, and certainly the ones who buy the app are younger because they live on the app world, and all of our websites are looking a lot more like apps. That is the place where people go to get information. Not today, but if you go back to mid-September, when many teams were out of the races, we would have that day 12, 13 million people visit our site, our collective portal, and have 200 million page views, 10 million videos watched. And so they're there. Our effort and our assignment is to, like any good retailer, while they're there, say, pardon me, ma'am, pardon me, sir, wouldn't you like to buy some tickets to go to this baseball game in a week? Wouldn't you like to go to Progressive Field and see the Indians play? Wouldn't you like to do that? That's our assignment, is to do it in a way to combine content, which is what many are coming for, with commerce, which is what we're also trying to do. And Bud Selig was just so far ahead of everybody that knowing that whether we meant to or not, we are talking to the next generation of fans every day. Certainly there are people as old as I am on our site, but we skew much younger. The digital media skews younger than the country. Sure. And it was genius on his part to do it. Aside from all the other economic reasons, getting the next generation of fans excited about baseball and focusing on their team and being able to watch their team wherever they may be, even if they're even if they're just somewhere in the U.S. but they're at a dinner and they just want to know what their team's doing. So I think that's what we're trying to do, is just be relevant on every device that people carry, not force them to go to any device to see it. Wherever you are, we'll give you what you want.
So the next time you pull out your phone to watch a baseball game, tell them Bob said it was okay? Yeah. He's the one who suggested you do it.
Not just okay, mandatory.
Encouraged.
Get out that credit card.
You mentioned Commissioner Seelig. Roger Goodell has a unique task in trying to maintain the most popular sport in America, in the National Football League, and you have plenty of dealings with the commissioner. I heard you, sir.
Rebuttal time? I mean, what?
You want to come up with some numbers? Go ahead. You can do that if you want. But
Okay, give me. I got him. Don't worry. But go ahead. You finish the question, Mr. Ross.
Except for more people watching Monday Night Football than there were the World Series.
Ed,
So anyway.
we don't need to talk about that. Well, they weren't watching for me, so I'll wiggle out of this.
This is not accurate.
What are the challenges? What are the challenges of the commissioner, as you see? Because it's very interesting. A commissioner has to lead a group of very successful businessmen and women and leaders who all have their opinions. And you see what Commissioner Goodell goes through on a regular basis. I'm just curious, as we were talking about Commissioner Seelig, the challenges of leadership, because that's so much of what you take out of School of Management, is how to lead, when to lead, and what's effective.
Well, I think football has been facing a lot more challenges outside their attendance and outside the games than baseball has. I think baseball, being an owner of a football team, I can look at baseball and see what they've done, and I got to say they're far advanced than the National Football League in what we've done from a digital media standpoint. I think the opportunities for football are fantastic, but I think right now baseball, it's like Avis and Hertz. They have to try a little harder, and so they're being a lot more aggressive in what they've done, and they're certainly in the forefront of the digital media field. I think for all sports, I think the other leagues look to see what baseball is doing and react, based upon that. Roger's done a great job as a leader, but I think that in football we have 16 games as opposed to 162 games, and that the challenges are a little different. And I think football, they're now studying to see how do you really bring technology into the stadiums, but they haven't really attacked it and don't have the personnel to look at it the way baseball does. I have to watch what I'm saying, because what I'm saying here, the last time I spoke here, I had an interview with the Wall Street Journal, and the next day to say something, and I said something here when I spoke here in September, and I got a phone call from the Wall Street Journal. It said, it's the first time we've ever been scooped by the Michigan Daily. So, I'll be careful what I say, but I think what Bob is doing, and is something that we've worked together on in trying to create and bring that connectivity to the stadiums. And I think Major League Baseball will be ahead of the football, the NFL, with regard to that. But I think within a year it'll be everywhere, though, that the stadiums will be connected, and we can really start this new age of digital technology in the stadiums, and then where it goes from there. I think you'll see who is the most aggressive and creative from that standpoint. But I'd say at this point, MLB is certainly way ahead of the NFL.
Bob, what's the international reach? Because as we all know, everyone in this room is a journalist now. If you have your cell phone or your video camera at the right moment and get the right picture, it can be beamed around the world in about 6 minutes. So international media has become the person next door. Anybody can make world news. I'm just curious, the global reach of Major League Baseball and MLB-AM, how much of your product is consumed by people outside the U.S.?
There's two answers to that. The first is the empirical answer, and roughly 12% of our subscribers and our visitors every day are international. Certainly Asia is very big, and as you would expect. The Caribbean is very big, as you would expect, and Europe less so, as you would also expect. There's nothing in the numbers that would strike anybody as odd. But I also think, if I may, I think that's one thing that baseball, we're trying to, another group of people, not where we work, is trying to make baseball bigger, and the only way you do that is you've got to plant seeds. You have to start, and for us, it's the World Baseball Classic. The third one is coming up this year, and it's going to be a record number of countries involved. And some of those countries are just starting in baseball, but that's how you get people interested in baseball. Is you got to get them to start playing. It's a great game. It's easy to play, and you can play it almost anywhere. And to get that going and get the worldwide interest, you have to start and spend money. And Tim Braz in the enterprise side is doing that, and it'll be good. The panel that'll be here in 10 years having the same conversation, that 12% may be 24%. You can't get there, though, without putting in some seeds and then waiting and trying to nurture it and let it grow. But for us right now, it's 12%, and it is exactly the areas of the world that you would expect, and they are just as fervent a fan as you in terms of watching their favorite teams. Their favorite teams are often where players from that country play. As you know, we all know about the NBA story, the Yao Ming. And so that generally what is driving it, but in other cases they become fans of a team, the player moves on, they stay fans of the team. And so that's generally what drives it now. And thank goodness for wireless, because it's almost entirely a wireless consumed product outside the United States. It's, right now here in the United States, 5 years ago we were completely wired, virtually wired. This year we will hit 50-50. We'll have as many people accessing our content on a mobile device as on a wired device. Internationally, those lines already crossed. Internationally, we are already much more in wireless. The desktops are not going to take hold there. It's a wireless world around the world, and the U.S. will maybe be the last to get there, but we'll get there. In 10 years, we'll be a wireless world too.
I mention that because I want to make it so apparent to the students here, given the expertise of both gentlemen, how important international and global is in this world. Even though we have such a focus on, in the sports world, our teams, our U.S. teams, you mentioned Latin and Central America, but baseball certainly our national pastime. Football so popular in the U.S., and the popularity of American football, although trying to grow with the international series, is so concentrated here and so dominated globally by soccer that the international presence of sports and sports marketing has become so important. And you see it in your franchise in Miami because of the global international city that Miami is.
Yes, I mean the NFL, as you know, has an annual game in London, and next year there will be 2 games actually in London, and certainly there's a lot of talk of possibly having a team at some point in time in the not too distant future being located in London. I think that's kind of a controversial decision or thought, because you wonder, when a sport isn't indigenous to the country, no one plays it, how can you really develop fans, for that sport? But I think the football, because it is only really played in the United States. I mean, Canada, yes, it's a little different version, but it's still, football, right. As we know it. There's room for expansion there. I just don't know if the NFL can really expand and take advantage of it, like I think baseball is doing with their international or their World Series for the different countries.
World Baseball Classic.
World Baseball Classic. I don't know how successful they can really be outside the country. I mean, it's a great brand. It's probably the strongest brand in this country and one of those in the world. But how do you take advantage of that brand from an international standpoint? Certainly, it's great getting it out there because you're really promoting sales of merchandise and other areas and different companies, obviously, with the sponsorships. But in terms of fans really, becoming football fans outside the United States, in Canada, I don't really know. I'm not quite as optimistic as I believe Roger is.
Interesting. We're going to take questions in a few minutes, but I guess you will feel, whoever put the title on this conference will feel the same pain that all of my producers do over the years. Sometimes I like to freelance away from the topic and be a little selfish. So I want to pick these 2 brains up here just for a moment, maybe a topic or 2 that might be germane to everyone here. Your association with the University of Michigan is obviously well known, and your association in the world of sports. We've talked often about the business of collegiate sports and how it's a massive financial monster, but at the same time trying to keep its roots back where it started as student athletes. Just your observations on how things have gone, especially here at Michigan, someplace I know that you've watched so closely over the years.
Well, I mean, I think, all of us who went to the University of Michigan are very proud of our school. We recognize, the great institution it is, and we also recognize primarily it's an academic institution, and that's why we're here. But we come here for the school spirit and for the sports, and I think there's not a school in the country that really takes advantage of both of those and creates that great Michigan difference, if you'll call it that. And I don't think anybody's done a better job than the University of Michigan. I know the importance of academics. I know when I started the Academic Center at the University of Michigan for athletes, and talking with Dave Brandon, who's really understands that, and that's where his goal is really to merge the 2 and have Michigan really be outstanding in both, and I think it really is. And I think Michigan's really it's wonderful that Michigan has a person like Dave Brandon as our athletic director. Dave's sitting here, and I can't tell you how good it is. So, I mean, when you look at the University of Michigan, no one's done it better. And, I think we recognize the difference. We're not the SEC, where we're just bringing in athletes to get them to play in the NFL. And, so, I mean, and I applaud that. And that's what it's all about, And that's why I think Michigan really, we kind of hold our heads up higher and look at it and understand what college sports is all about. And,
well said.
Hopefully it'll continue.
Well said. Bob, I know another part of your life and your roots are in Metro Detroit, and part of what you've been doing over the last year is helping on the financial end as part of a committee trying to get Detroit back in the right direction in its finances. So without the specifics of that, because it's way off topic, just talk about this area and what you see as you come back to the baseball playoffs with a lot of your colleagues in the Major League Baseball office, and as you've been around Detroit for years and you've seen things go down. Do you see that energy that we often like to talk about in Metro Detroit that sports is sometimes at the center of when the Lions are good and the Red Wings are going in the playoffs and the Tigers the last few years? Are you seeing some of those true seeds of Detroit possibly turning the corner?
Well, yeah, I spent the 80s in Michigan, and we still have a home where we go every summer in northern Michigan. So we still, and I voted, as did my daughter in her first election. I voted in this state a couple days ago. And so we still consider Michigan our home. It is the state itself and the Midwest in general. If those of you who are from here, we are born optimists. There's no better place to be from. We just always think tomorrow is going to be better. And certainly Detroit and the greater Detroit area has gone through some tough times. But my observation, spending many years in public finance, is that cities are going to dominate in the next 30 to 40 years. People want to be near the action. They want to be near cities. And I think, oddly enough, because we spend so much time on digital stuff, we're going to want to spend some time with real people, whether it's going to a Miami Dolphins football game or a Detroit Tigers baseball game or a Lions football game, or even more appropriately, maybe a University of Michigan athletic event. We're going to want to spend time with people. The easiest way to do that is to live closer together. And the price of gas and all the other things. So I think cities are going to rise like we haven't seen, like we probably haven't seen since the industrial age. And I think Detroit is going to be at the forefront. It's hard not to be optimistic. The panel on which I serve, there are 8 other members on there. They are all terrifically talented, hardworking, concerned citizens, as is everyone I know in Detroit. It's hard to see a scenario in which Detroit does not thrive in the future. And I think cities in general are going to do well. And not just Detroit in the state. There are other cities as well, just like there are around the country. I just think that the nature of this generation and how they live their life and where they want to be, all that technology, they want to still see people. They want to still go to movies. They want to go to sporting events. And so I'm very optimistic. Nothing gets there without hard work, whether you're an incoming AD as talented as Dave is and taking over a great program, or whether you're trying to hopefully redirect the city of Detroit. Nothing comes easily and people make a difference. But if Detroit were a stock, I'd buy it.
Well, I am not from here. I've, 13 years living here now. Moved from Connecticut when I was working at ESPN. My wife is from Michigan, so I guess I'm a Michigan in-law as a resident. But our kids are born here, and I love the vibrant, passionate, just love of the Midwest that happens with the people, as you said, Bob, who are from here. And we are so excited to call this home. And I just bring that up for those of you who are students here from elsewhere or from the Midwest. Bob's point's wonderful. There's a turnaround going on. And to Bob's specific point, if I can pass this along, this is one bit of advice. I know I'm driving the car and we're listening to these two guys talk, but the one bit of advice is somebody who's been around a couple of times, talk to somebody. We are so eager to email and text, and I'm a huge violator of that, but take 5 minutes to walk across the street or walk across the dorm or have a coffee or a tea or a grown-up beverage with somebody, for those of you who are 21.
Thank you. Thank you.
And have a conversation, because it is still the currency of society and always will be. So just instead of that, hey, how you doing, text, call somebody and say, let's just go sit someplace for 5 minutes and talk. I pass that along. There's a wonderful person here. Can you hold up the sign? Who is proving that my Syracuse education has been put to very good use. The sign says Q&A, so that means question and answer time. See, they taught us well at Syracuse. 4 years, and I learned how to read that. So you have about 10 minutes of Q&A or maybe 15 minutes, so raise your hand. Someone will come to you with a microphone, and you can, of course, the guy in the back has the first question. You know what? Let's skip the microphone. You look big enough to be loud. Stand up and ask your question.
All right, this question's for you, Mr. Tirico. So I know programming is really skills, expertise, and honor personality. I hope this question doesn't come off as offensive or intrusive, because it's really not my intent. I think people in general have noticed a slight decline in quality of programming at ESPN over the past couple of years. It starts with stories like Favre and LeBron and Tebow.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of gets shoved down your throat a little bit more. The good content is obviously still there with stuff like Insider and shows like Numbers Never Lie and things like that. But I think consumers have to look a little harder for it. Can you talk, one, is this really the most lucrative money-making machine for ESPN? And two, how do you think we can get back to more insightful and respectful journalism? Talk about it.
Well, fortunately, I can't answer those questions because these guys are on the panel today. No, I'm joking. David Burson used to work with us in programming at ESPN. You saw David earlier. He's now at CBS, so since he left, everything went downhill. I can say that. Right? You know what? Here's what's happened. The sports world has changed. Talk radio, the internet, blogs, a lot of that has taken wind. And if you stay back where you were 20 years ago, we'd be reading box scores out of the sporting news once a week. So you have to go where the people are, which is what I said before, know who your constituents are. I'll be candid and know we're on the record. Some of the shows that we do don't appeal to me. I'm a 45-year-old sports fan. Like, you can talk to me about blocking and tackling and who's the seventh best team in the Big Ten and how many teams can the Big Ten get in the NCAA tournament, and I'd be interested. But ratings and numbers and trends, as everybody can tell you from marketing and running businesses, you have to follow where the people are. Now, the question becomes, do you stay principled in what you do? I'll put what we do on the air, covering games, with any network that's ever broadcast games. I'll put what we do on Outside the Lines, on SportsCenter when something really matters. I'll put the way we cover it up against anybody. There's a reason CBS, NBC, Fox, and everybody under the sun is trying to do a cable sports channel, because ESPN's done it for a long time and been very successful and done very well. And they'll all be the first ones to tell you that the challenge is hard. There's a reason that there hasn't been a legitimate competitor for 20 years. Because we're damn good at what we do. And I will stand by the people who employ me and have shown the light for us for years, because they're willing to try stuff. And if that's the message that I took from ESPN my 21 years and what Mr. Ross has done in business and what Bob and BAM have done, MLBAM have done, it's you have to be willing to try things. Because if you don't, then you're going to get passed by, much like CNN got passed by Fox News in the ratings over the years. So I appreciate your question. I don't love everything we do, but I'm proud to work for the company, and we'll fight for it every day. So, great question. Thank you. Please, question for these guys, because nobody came to hear me talk. And I don't want to get any more hot water with my boss. Do we have microphones for everybody? We're just going to stand up and yell. Let's stand up and yell. Sir, you're a senior, aren't you? What's your name?
Jacob Lucen.
Hi, Jacob.
This is for Mr. Ross. Can you distinguish between running an NFL franchise versus running a traditional business?
Yeah, it's a lot harder. I mean, running an NFL franchise is, it's really all about winning. And you can create winning organizations a lot easier in business because you can pick your people and you can lead them. It doesn't have all the rules and regulations. And, we all have these ideas, but, I think the reason I bought a sports team is why I wanted to create a winning environment. And a franchise that can really give back to the community. And it's hard to do it without winning. And so it starts there. And you have to be a fan, and you have to make the right kind of decisions. But you're not able to change those decisions as a fan is able to. Once you make a commitment to a player, it's long term. It's not short term, and you can't just get rid of them with salary caps and all the rules. So it's a lot more difficult to create a winning sports organization. We try to do all the right things, but the one that really matters is how you do it in the won-loss columns, and that's how you're judged. But I really believe by hiring the right people and being consistent and staying towards your goals and your paths and believing in it, that you can get there and do it the right way. But it's a lot harder than it is in business, I think.
Great question. Yes, sir.
I'm an alumni, so full disclosure here. I spent the last 5 years
Great.
And so I've worked for the Jones family. With the controversy you've seen this week with Jerry and his management style over the last 17 years and a lack of success in wins and losses, as you've come into the league, you've seen examples of Bob Kraft, you've seen Jerry, you've seen other owners, their style and their approach as to putting that winning product on the field. What owners or which model, if there is such a model, do you think is best applicable for the Dolphins going forward?
Well, that was probably the first question I was asked when I bought the team. You know, what kind of owner are you going to be? And I believe just as in business, though, you hire the brightest people that you can find that are hardworking, that believe in the same principles you do, and you let them make the decisions and you don't micromanage them. My job as an owner is really to support them and give them everything that they can have in order to make sure that we're winning. But I'm not going to get involved in picking the players or calling the plays and second-guessing them. And it's really just to find people who really want to work in that type of environment, that really believe and are passionate in what they're doing. And I think hiring passionate people that are bright and not there where it's all about them, and building a team is how you really create a winning organization in sports. I have a lot of respect for Jerry Jones. You know, if you were asking me who is my favorite owner in the NFL, I'd say it's Jerry Jones, because he's willing to try new things. He's creative, and Jerry's whole life is the football team and what he's done. And certainly, if you ask anybody in this country, it's probably the most popular team. It's a team that has the greatest value with the Dallas Cowboys. It's just not translated in wins and losses. So it's a question of what you want.
In the back.
I wanted to know from all three of you what the best advice you had all three of you have ever received.
Bob, I'll let you start on that one.
Okay. Well, it's funny because I get a lot of advice. Some of it appears to be impossible to accomplish, and others is a little easier. You know, I would say that the best advice I got was from my father, and he and I were not particularly close. It's when I was just about y'all's age, maybe a little younger, and I took the horse and buggy home and got home that night, and yeah. With her joke. Anyway, so my father said to me, he said, "You're only going to get out of life what you put in it. And if you're going to shortcut it, in the end, you'll get there a little faster, but you won't win the race. So you're only going to get out of life what you put in it." And, listening to Steve talk, winning organizations don't cut corners. Winning organizations are in for the long haul. They try and build dynasties, I guess. And so that was my father's advice, and it's the advice I pass on to most of the kids that I work with is, just don't cut a corner. Put it all in. Don't leave anything on the field. And the other piece of advice I'd give you that I have not ever heard, but I give, because I'm sure that's what you also would like to hear, is when you look for that first job or any job, always interview the people, not the job, not the organization, because in the end, the people you work for will make all the difference in your life. Even if you stay there a year, if it's a good person, he or she will be your mentor or your friend and help you for the rest of your life. Do not worry about the job title. Do not worry about whether it's in this city or that city, if you can afford to live in a different city, although we want you to stay here in Michigan. But the people you work with and for will make all the difference in what you do in your life.
Steve?
Well, I certainly have heard and agree with everything Bob said. I think what I believe in, what I've heard initially, is to find something you really have a passion for. And it's got to be you and what really turns you on, and then to work hard and to achieve your goals. And I think the most important thing is really finding something that really you care about, because when you have a passion for something and you're working every day, it's not like really working.
I'm not stealing theirs, but I'll just tell you quickly. Mine was not words of advice necessarily, but my mom was a single mom before being a single mom was something that was accepted societally as much as it is today. And she would come home from work. My grandparents helped raise me. She would come home from work with a whole bunch of extra work to do. And she, after getting my homework done, stay up and do her work. She worked as a bank teller, and she rose to a manager of a branch of a bank with nothing more than a secretarial degree, not even a high school degree. And her lesson of perseverance and hard work is what I try to pass on to my kids. Hard work, work hard, as the guys were saying. It's the same words in different order, but it's very simple. And I always leave elementary school kids with 20 letters, 10 two-letter words. It's the most simplest thing to apply to life. If it is to be, it is up to me. It's such a simple phrase, but it is so true. It's so true if you're trying to get faster in your 40 time, if you're trying to hit the ball in the fairway once when you can't do it when you play golf, like me, if you're trying to have a better broadcast next Monday night or this coming Monday night in Pittsburgh. They play Kansas City, 8:30 Eastern. Kansas City's bad. Nobody will be watching. If you have ratings at your house, please watch. It's all up to you. Friendships, whatever you want. If it is to be, it's up to me. Let's sneak in one last question, please.
Steve Sherrick on Evening NBA here. My question for you, Mr. Ross, primarily, Bob, you can chime in on this. We see more and more of the business world coming into sports. That said, as you mentioned, the impetus is on winning. So how do you run a business in the NFL or through Major League Baseball where you have somebody at the top who knows both sides of the equation?
Well, I mean, it's such a complex area today, to really know both sides of the equation in terms of the sports side and the business side. And I think that, I think you have to divide the two and really have the best of both on both sides. I mean, it's a big business today. The dollars are great. The risks are there. And to find someone today that really has a knowledge of both sports and business and that can really do those on a day in and day out basis, there are very few people that can really do that. And I think, so we've looked at it really separating the two and finding the best at both. And people love being involved in sports on the business side, even though they're not involved. It sounds very glamorous to be involved in selecting players and calling plays, but being close to it, and I think it attracts a lot of people. But it's like any other business when you're really there working it. You're doing something, day in and day out, and you've got to really love what aspect you're doing. And it can be very exciting on the sports side, And then if you really get lucky and you do both, you can become Dave Brandon, be an athletic director who's really combined the best of both, and I think is really doing a great job for Michigan and why we have a lot to look forward to in Michigan here.
As always, when the company is good, I tend to overstay my welcome. So I've enjoyed hanging out with all of you. And I know we have one note. I know there are a bunch of people who are sports fans, and I said, please, let's direct the questions to the guys. I will get together with the student leaders of MSBC, and let's figure out a time that we can talk sports if you want. I'm only here in Ann Arbor. I can get by, as long as you guys are willing to pay the parking ticket that I'm going to get today. Or if you know somebody at the university who can take care of it for me, I'd appreciate that. But let's get together somewhere. If you guys want to talk sports a little bit, I would love to do that. But most importantly, I'm honored to not only be on your campus here as part of the Michigan experience, but with people who have meant so much to this place, and especially Mr. Ross and what you've done for so many of these students, not just the sports lovers, but everyone in the management school. Let's have a nice round of applause for Bob Bowman and Mr. Stephen Ross. Thank you. Thank you all. You're the best. You're the best. Anytime.